Hey, there we go. Mic test, making sure audio is all working. Good. Yep, it's all good. I am so tired. I'm not sure how long the stream is going to be. Probably not that long, to be honest. Mostly just want to chill because yesterday I was so worked up to make sure everything was working properly. And that was after a long week. Actually, it wasn't a long week of work. We had July 4th and 5th off. But it felt like a long week of work for some reason. What's with me? What's with my stamina? I haven't exercised recently either. I should probably get my blood flowing. Probably some step mania after this. But yeah. Just another day. I think I want to do something about the fact that the chat doesn't show up very well on this preview. Not this preview, this overlay. I think what I can do is just isolate the colors over there. Remove them. Make it like a transparent PNG. That probably fixes it, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Without the volume of the music a little bit. There we go. Anyhow, it has been one heck of a week. We have Threads now for Instagram users. If you've been paying attention to social media at all, which if you're a VTuber fan, you probably have been, it's obviously been a bit of a thing. Reels was not a very good competitor for TikTok, but Threads is proving to be something of a true competitor for once to Twitter, of all things. Mostly because, well, nobody really wants to use Twitter. Not with Elon Musk burning everything down. Worst 44 billion ever spent. I'm actually on Threads now, but it was a bit of a journey to get there because I did not intend at all to... Oh, hey, good. Instagram does in fact auto-follow everybody that I'm following on Threads onto Instagram. That's very, very good actually. That makes it a lot more useful for me. It's not necessarily the best thing to do, but I discovered pretty good artists that way. But what was I talking about? Right, Threads. I don't like it. It is in fact out competing Twitter for new users pretty well, but it's fucking useless if you wanted to cultivate a timeline. Sorry for cussing, but I feel very strongly about how useless that timeline is for literally anybody else trying to use the platform. It is such a pain. It is such a pain. Like, approximately 75% of my Threads feed right now is like really vapid one-liner junk from people that I have zero interest in, just based off the fact that they're threading that kind of stuff in the first place, right? Like feel-good one-liners, some stuff about God, some stuff about like keeping your head in the game or stuff like that. Such unilaterally boring bullshit. And meanwhile, I'm trying to like interact with VTubers and leftists and queer folks, the fun parts of the internet, and trying to treat it as if it was a TikTok feed where you're going to run into a bunch of junk, you're going to run a bunch of stuff that you really don't want to see, and then eventually, after you've given the algorithm enough information to work with, presumably it starts to reflect your general interests a lot more. That hasn't happened yet. I've been using it for a few hours now. Like, concurrently a few hours. Not just like, I've just opened the account a few hours ago. No, I posted about on Twitter a while ago. That you can find my threads now. So far not so great. I gotta tell you. So far not so great. So far, Threads is a really good way to see what's going on in the mainstream if that is your intent. And that is not my intent. My IRL Twitter account is plugged into enough news feeds to act as a general gauge for that kind of stuff in the first place. I'm not too interested in learning what I already know, you know, and learning from the most Bano accounts I have ever run across in social media. Well, anyhow, hopefully it improves. The one thing I really just need from Threads is the ability to see a cultivated timeline of the people I'm actively following. That's all I really need. And if you need to do it algorithmically so it only floats up the highest traffic stuff, God, that'd be so painful. A proper timeline would be very helpful, but just give me a way to actually track who's posting what based on the people I follow. That's strange. What? So I definitely see Dracon. Hi, Dracon. Threads has no, so it's not existing to me. I can't actually see what the text is because it's not showing up on my chat yet, weirdly enough. Let me refresh. Let me see if that helps. It doesn't. That's so weird. Why is it that I'm gaining ingest for it? Okay, now I can see it. Now I can see where you're right. That's so weird. Oh, right. It's probably auto-censored. I'm sorry. I think I see what's going on. Has no ads, so it's not existing to me. Okay. So the trick here, because that's not actually entirely true, but it depends on what you follow. If it's photographic, it'll be very much auto-censored because apparently whatever regulatory like system they have in place is all tracking like photos, right? But fan artists can still sneak some way through. Now there are some limits. Threads is very, very, very against like any sort of like not safe for work material. But fan artists go to fan artists, you know. If you know who to follow, if you know how to find them, which is a real pain with the format with the outlet, you can still get some stuff. You can still get some stuff, and I have seen plenty of bikini folks out there too. It's a bit of a mess right now. Probably the biggest thing though is that hashtags don't work on it, which means that discoverability for specific subjects. Listen, my Twitter is 95% not safe for work, so yeah, I get you. I do have like a private account for any more risque artists that have caught my attention that I want to track without having to risk my public my personal life reputation. You know, keep it off the channels, keep it off my cell phone, hopefully, and just like find the artists I've been paying attention to on my own time, and you know how it is. I don't need to say too much. But yeah, the lack of hashtags, the lack of discoverability, lack of control, user control over the content is a huge pain in the butt. Like, if you are a celebrity chaser, congratulations. This is the platform for you. Literally every single person that's relatively well known in the Western world feels like they're all joined together to get a Threads account and just like blasting people. And that kind of like one-way relationship, it's really anti-social media, at least to the ways that I personally feel social media should be used, right? Like, social media, to me, at its best and its worst, is a very democratic system, where regardless of like how rich and famous you are, like, as long as you're able to stir up something sufficiently interesting for people to pay attention to, they will organically amplify you and organically give you the attention, right? Last I heard, TikTok is a new hotness for some time, though clearly not a Twitter replacement. Yeah. Like, there is a lot to be said in TikTok's favor as a social media platform, but inherently, like, video posts are going to be more higher effort than anything else. The interactivity for TikTok, however, is great. The genius of TikTok is in fact in the democratic tools, right? And your ability to splice, to even retweet videos, to like make a response video concurrent to the actual content. All that is amazing. The fact that I steal data, whatever, they don't actually do anything that's any different from anybody else. Twitter and Threads and Facebook and Instagram and everybody else alike. Like, it's no different. It's the same kind of evil. But in terms of being able to community build, and unfortunately, and also in terms of being able to harass people, the short form video platform du jour is very much TikTok. And if I had, I don't know. Partly, I'm wondering if maybe I should just run an IRL account. Well, I have an IRL account I've been just flat out ignoring on TikTok side. But part of me also thinking I should put a lot more effort into making short form video content to take advantage of both the fact of both TikTok in general and also the fact that YouTube is focusing on their shorts program. It would be a very, very empowered way to reach YouTube's partnership program, right? At least the stage 1 partnership program. It's not the full monetization model that that you really, really want, but some of it's still there. But it's a pain, man. As a VTuber, it's a bit of a pain. There's no way to plug OBS into TikTok unless you already have a healthy following, therefore they unlock the tools for you. And there's also no way to like broadcast it onto YouTube Shorts, right? So it's a multi-stage effect where I need to be able to record in a 1080 by 1920 format. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to write a script for it. And if I'm going to write a script, I'm going to have to take multiple takes in order to make sure that the quality is where I want it to be. So yeah, it sounds like a lot of work. That's because it is a lot of work. Which is why I haven't been really doing it. I've been slacking on producing shorts for a few months now, despite knowing full well that I really, really need to if I want to drive some traffic towards my various channels. I'll get around to it though, because frankly, there's no excuse not to, right? Even if it's a lot of work, I like playing around with DaVinci Resolve. It's just like everything else with my content creation right now. It's just whether or not I have the energy to do so after a whole 8-hour shift at work, right? Like, that's probably going to be a pretty frequent refrain on my part, and that my current job is just leave me too damn tired to really do anything. The best I could do anything yesterday? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I fully understand. I fully appreciate that. But yesterday, specifically yesterday, I was too damn busy to do anything. Yesterday was the VTuber collab for my EVO 2023 discussion panel. If you haven't seen it yet, I do have the VOD saved on this YouTube channel, so you can check it out at any time. It's about 2 hours long. Honestly, could have gone longer, except I didn't want to take up too much time for everybody else, given that I was organizing a 4-person panel, 5 including myself, so 4 plus 1. It was a lot of fun. It was also really fucking stressful because I was doing all this while still working a full-time job. I rolled out like entire plan document to make sure that everybody was on the same page and had enough time to think over their answers, which was hugely beneficial. I think the discussion was not only really productive, but also enlightening, because I had both tournament veterans, was there with Wisdom Collab was live for a bit. Yeah, I really much appreciate that. It was a lot of fun to have everybody respond to everything as it was going on. I felt like it was a much better panel this year than last, not simply because I have more people, although of course that helps, but because I had a wider like diversity of viewpoints for the FGC itself. We had both the tournament veterans, Serena and Inferno Chen, much to my gratitude, were able to come back for the program again this year. And I was able to reach out to Peachy Burb and Year Z, who are both much newer to the FGC scene in general, right? They've mostly just started playing the game, started to really learn to love the community aspect as well. And because of that, they are able to bring in perspectives on things that we would otherwise take for granted, right? Things that might be, we might have assumed hard, but was easy. Things are we might have assumed easy but are hard. Basically giving a good overview that is often overlooked in these conversations about what it's like to actually be a newbie in the FGC and be a first-time watcher for EVO, and hearing about all the stuff that's going down, learning about them for the first time, so on and so forth. Which, if anything else, if there is nothing else I can brag about, I can definitely at least brag about that I was able to give a platform for that kind of thing, and also give a discussion about what the community might want to look into doing in the future to keep this momentum up. And we have a lot of momentum right now. Like Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat is going to sell another 10 million minimum for Mortal Kombat 1, because it always does. It is in fact the biggest FGC title out there by a very large margin, even if I don't like the game myself. But that's just how it is. I also really need to start to crack down on my training, because we are exactly 1 month away from EVO itself. Yeah, 1 month. And I've been slacking on practice because I've been trying to work on this collab instead. That's alright. That's how it usually is. I just hope work cools down a bit because I am so tired. Oh, also, regarding EVO, I had to buy a whole new fight stick. Not because my current one's broken or anything, but because it is the Snackbox Micro, and designed specifically it's the 2022 version of the Snackbox Micro, designed for the PS4 and older consoles. Which means it has, well, specifically for Street Fighter 6, which I did sign up to compete in, although I'm probably going to go 0-2, honestly. Specifically for Street Fighter 6, Capcom has decided that the stock D input that's traditional for leverless sticks, which is if you press both down and up at the same time, you get an up input, is non-viable. They decided that in order to compete in Street Fighter 6 officially, you need to have it so that way if you press both buttons at the same time, you get a neutral input instead. So down and up equals nothing, equals a blank, equals standing instead. Which the 2002 version of the Snackbox Micro does not do. And there is no firmware updates for that board because it's now considered an out-of-date board. I need to get the 2023 board instead, 2023 board instead, in order to have the firmware updates, which it comes with by now, and the app to control stock D input customizability to use a leverless fight pad legally for Street Fighter 6. Now, here's the problem though. That would not be an issue. I would gladly buy the board for whatever price it's going for, even if it's like $150, which is absurd for a PCB board only. I would gladly pay that price just to be able to use my leverless controller and not have to get a second controller, if anywhere available. But if you go on junk food, if you go on a Hitbox, if you go on Etsy for privately made boards, nobody has any left. Nobody. There's like maybe one distributor for a PCB board that you didn't have to solder yourself in order to get to work. I don't know what to say about that. It's a good problem to have from a macro point of view. It means that the health of the scene is thriving, that the interest in these controllers are white hot and outstripping demand. And that's great and all. That's great and all. The knowledge that these products will be continuously supported throughout whatever years to come, that you're always going to be able to find players online to fight, because there are so many players that the hardware manufacturers simply cannot keep up with demands. That's all great from a macro community perspective, but from a personal perspective, it means I have to relearn how to use a freaking stick. And I suck at using stick. I'm not going to lie. I'm clumsy. And the whole appeal of using leverless in the first place was that it's much harder to miss your inputs with leverless control. I can still play stick if I have to. It's just that I have to build up the muscle memory again to get that exact precise timing and exact precise placements for the stick while I'm playing. And that's a whole thing. That's a whole issue. It does, however, means that it's going to be easier for me to do 360 inputs and 180 inputs for Gold Lewis and for Zangief. If I want to do a 720 input, it's a lot easier to do on stick. I'll fully admit that. But outside of those instances, everything else is so much easier on my Snackbox Micro. So much easier, so much more precise, and so much faster is the thing. So I have to spend the next month really hardcore going into Street Fighter 6 just to make sure that I can play at a minimally competent level. And that is a pain in the butt. But I'll do it. I'll do it. I have no interest in wasting my registration to EVO. I fully intend to enjoy myself in Vegas again this year. And I fully intend to not catch COVID this time. I have all my booster shots. I had my booster shots before last EVO. I still caught it anyhow just because, like, even if literally 99% of the entire staff and in attendance was masked at EVO, the people that were taking their mask off in the cafeteria or when they're wandering around Vegas, or the people that are not involved in the tournament and therefore aren't subject to the masking rules wandering around outside the halls, those could have been contamination source any number of ways. And the boosters only made sure that I wasn't suffering too badly when I did get sick. But hopefully not again. I think my immunity is still pretty strong. I might choose to get another booster shot before in the next couple of weeks, just to make sure that I retain effectiveness against COVID. It's a whole damn thing. But I'm excited. I'm excited. This is the second of my 2 travel plans this year. The first was Off-Kai, which I already talked about last stream. Or no, two Zatsudans ago. And yeah, that's just gonna be a lot of fun. I should probably hit up a lot more the VFGC channel just to see if there's going to be any VTuber hangouts, or if I should plan one ahead of time. And also talk to my usual hangouts to see if anybody in my primary communities also plan to go. And so make plans for that as well. It would be nice. Hoping to run into people like, well, I know that Jim's going. PC Bird might go as well. We did have to remind her that the registration deadline ends tonight, by the way. So if you are planning to go to EVO, this is your last chance to get those tickets. You can always go as a spectator as well, except the very last day, the top 6 flight on Sunday, with all the major showdowns. That is probably going to sell out this year. The stadium was packed last year. It probably will be again this year. Like, we have registration records for Street Fighter 6. Guilty Gear again, to my shock, and to my even bigger surprise, Melty Blood has beaten its own record as well. And Melty Blood is a bit of a standstill right now because they haven't had a major patch for a while. Whereas Guilty Gear Strive, you're a little less surprised because we do plan to hear some announcements coming in as soon as possible. Like, there will almost certainly be Season 3 pass news coming out during the Guilty Gear finals. GG, welcome to the channel. We were just going over some of the stuff from the last week or so. Yesterday's discussion panel is definitely a highlight of the week. Mostly because of how stressed I am. Everybody was great, don't get me wrong. The panelists were great. My plan to use like a little check sheet to make sure that everybody got some speaking time was mostly worked about 80% of the time. Wicked, also welcome to the channel. Good to see you. Actually, yeah, I have to confess, I had like a little notebook. I was like making tally marks, right, for every single person that I spoke to make sure that everybody, like, if not speaking to the same amount, at least have equal opportunity to speak. And yet, I still managed to skip Serena for some damn reason, all the way at the end. Granted, I was like mentally fatigued at that point, because it was a 2 hour long stream. I was trying to juggle as many balls as possible as the host. And it was my first time hosting a 4-person panel as well, which is the biggest collab I have personally like led and directed. I actually can't think of anything similar to that, because I haven't been invited to any like multi-person like team stuff yet. And either way, the hosting is a completely different issue for simply being showing up and being expected to speak, right? Like, that was a lot of work to prep. I'm glad it mostly went off without a hitch. Thank you for congratulations. But I don't want to do that anytime soon. Maybe like at most once every 2 months, because I need to focus this month on getting ready for Evo, and probably not working ahead of time with the VFGC actually, to make sure that I have some stuff to do with the community then. Yeah, I'll probably drop a message soon. Oh, speaking of which, I need to look towards what's it called? As soon as Rashid drops, which is just a mere 1.5 weeks, a week and a half before the start of Evo, I need to start practicing that character. Not necessarily to main him unless like I really click with the dude, but because there's gonna be a whole bunch of people showing up to play him for the first time, trying to find a way to use whatever cheese he has to get an advantage at Evo, right? And at a very bare minimum, I need to pay attention to like what cheese is for me out in the community, and know how to account for it and know how to beat it, all within a 1.5 week period in a game that I'm not very familiar with. Like, if it was Guilty Gear Strive and Asuka just dropped, and I had to attend the tournament in a week and a half, I could probably figure something out, right? I would know that I'm not going to be playing him, but I would know to play a lot against him, who to play against, and what kind of like antics to look out for. And to be fair, I still have a really hard time against a really good Asuka. You really need to pay attention to, like, you both need to be paying attention to his resources, and know how to force him to either expend resources a lot more frequently to keep you out, or to know how to dash in with whatever movesets and tools you have available as soon as he's run out of spells, while still looking out for things like his Forest Slash, which just has really good range, really annoyingly good range. But yeah. What else? Oh, by the way, I'm almost at another health milestone. Like, I was expecting to regress a little bit after Offkai, but it turns out that my body really just like wants to shake off this extra weight. So despite all the picking out I did at Offkai, and there was a lot of picking out, I had a California burrito again for the first time in years, which is freaking delicious. Despite that, I am at an even lower weight. I am almost at my next milestone. I am going to reward myself with an extra large boba as soon as I can, as soon as I meet that milestone. And then I'm going to eat whatever the heck I want at Vegas. And Vegas has food. If you have been following me, Keith Lee on TikTok, he is this MMA fighter that has gotten really famous on TikTok, not because of MMA fighting, but because of his restaurant reviews for like local mom and pop shops all throughout the Nevada area. And with the not so surprising effect of being very genuine in regards to his reviews, right? Like, he doesn't bullshit around whether or not he likes something or not. And B, when he does give that review, that restaurant is guaranteed to have a really tough time keeping up with demand for a while, you know? It helps that he's really stringent about things, honestly. The fact that he will very, very bluntly and, well, not without compassion, right? But he will be very blunt about what he likes and dislikes and why he personally doesn't like something and why that still might work for somebody else. But it gives an aura of authenticity to his reviews, and therefore people are a lot more likely to trust it. So what I plan to do is, at least once a day, go over some of Keith Lee's recommendations, whether it's pastry, whether it's just like a good chicken or whatever, and see about getting some, you know, see about getting some delivery if we can, and trying it out, and maybe do my own like follow-up reviews and finding like the restaurants that he reviewed and the video he made, and just doing like a response to it, right? Like, that sounds a little predatory. It sounds like a very deliberate way of driving traffic to my TikTok and everything. Keith Lee, rather. Yeah, I'll spell it on chat. Yeah, there we go. Don't mind the slash. But also, like, I just like the dude's channel. I like the respect he gives to the restaurant business, and I'm just going to follow his footsteps and give my own reviews and break down where I might diverge from his opinion, or where I think he might be underselling something, or just like give an example of how I think something can be improved, because I like food. Like, there's a reason why I chose to be a Hungry Ghost VTuber, and that's because I like food. But that's also why I have to struggle so hard to lose all this weight. Speaking of food, what else happened this week? Right. Oh, God. Domo arigato. Was a pretty nice dude overall, but he stepped into a bit of a cultural landmine because he's been eating a lot of the... If I win Evo, will I buy you all boba? Hold me to this. If I win Evo, all of my channel regulars, especially the folks here, will get free boba from me. I will make a way for you to contact me. If I win Evo, that's not gonna happen, by the way. Holy shit. That is the competition this year is incredible, okay? Okay, so Evo has been growing year from year regardless of anything, but the titles themselves might not necessarily see resurgent growth year after year, right? Like, especially during COVID, especially during the nadir of Street Fighter V's reputation, it struggled a little bit. There's a big reason why last year Kyochi Gear Strive was the actual king of Evo 2022. It had the most attendees, it had the most hype, it had the most like storied rivalries being played out. For a while, Dragon Ball FireZ was at the top for a while as well, but Dragon Ball FireZ unfortunately came out only a few years before COVID kicked in, so once that actually happened, it, along with everybody else on delay-based netcode, just struggled. And Street Fighter V set the biggest record for Street Fighter attendees at Evo only during its first year when it was brand new and everybody else just wanted to try a new game. Now, this might still be true for Street Fighter 6. Capcom might screw up somewhere along the way, and Street Fighter 6's reputation might still tank. Like, just because Capcom's on a golden era right now doesn't mean that it's always going to be that way, right? Like, there's always a cycle to these things. Success and failure ebb and flow. These things are just a natural cycle. But for now, the only time that Street Fighter has ever had more players was all the way back during 5's release. No, not more players, comparable players. The last time I had anything close to this number of players was all the way back in 5's release when it was still brand new and everybody was willing to give it a shot. Now, it's 6's turn, and not only is 6 like fresh out of the gates and therefore everybody wants to take the title while everybody else is still new at it, but it's also a significantly more popular title, a lot more well regarded as well. Like, it's fun to play. If you haven't played Street Fighter yet, don't worry about going online. Just play the single player mode if you have to, because what you're getting basically is Yakuza Light. You're going around mugging people for a bit of experience and cash. And then you can deck yourself out with some cool ass threads or some really lame and funny ones. And you can design your own character to be either the most gorgeous babe on the block or the weirdest looking mofo that anybody's ever put their imagination behind. You can make some things that just look absolutely completely inhuman, except for the fact they have 2 arms and 2 legs. This is a fun ass game. And it's a funny ass game as well. I like it's not the most like nuanced game ever made. The writing is what it is, but it is a funny ass game. And if you're afraid of playing like fighting games because of how technical it gets, don't worry, because the single player mode not only acts as a really good tutorial for the basics, it's also a really simple beat 'em up. Like there will be some things like some opponents are much more easily thrown than punched. Some opponents don't block whatsoever. Some opponents are going to try to grab you all the time. So learning how to deal with that specific attack pattern is going to be a good way to train your basically like fighting game basics, right? But also like these also characters and playstyles that are very apparent because only that specific character model is going to do that kind of stuff, right? And they're going to have a flash when they're going to have like this white flash over their body when they do it. The characters with cylinder bodies and big round hits, yeah, absolutely. And or the characters with like really weird muscles, so some things bulge and some things don't. And the characters with the skin, like the glow on the skin shoved up all the way to 11. So they're basically like a human light bulb and blinding and painful just to look at the character model. And they're running around like a bunch of weird ass aliens. Yeah, this is a game of all time. I fully recommend anybody giving Street Fighter 6 a chance just to see how goofy as hell this game is. And the fact that it has actually a legitimate and fun single player mode that you can simply mash buttons all day long with, it's excellent. Also, holy shit, there are some nice costumes, I'll just say, if what you're looking for is some hot women or hot guys. And so the DLC I'm thinking, there's no way Capcom's going to actually let this stream on stage, right? Especially the leak on Chun-Li's new outfit. Oh, not a leak, actually. I think I saw a model of it. I think I saw VTuber Huntress play the new outfit, and I'm just thinking, I'm surprised that's not just a mod. So it caters to all types, you know? It caters to all types. Let me see. I think there was also a rumor that the, what was it? No, that's just a mod. Okay, yeah, it's just a mod. But it's one hell of a mod. They put the guys in like old school Darkstalkers costumes. And I don't mean the male Darkstalkers costumes. I mean like you get to see Jamie as what was the Felicia. So you know if whatever mental image you have of that, it's probably accurate. It is a game of all time. It is a game of all time. I enjoy it. I'm very bad at Street Fighter, by the way, and just to set expectations, because I do plan to be streaming for the rest of the month as I prepare for EVO, but I am extremely bad at Street Fighter 6. It feels like I have to relearn a lot of basic concepts and fighting games just to play this thing, right? Because the timing of it is so damn different. The biggest thing is the timing. Combos and everything else I have played have been roughly the same logic. Whether like some of it's a little tighter than others, some of it like some things like with Idle Showdown's grab, for instance, the grab input where you have to press 2 buttons with it, unless you have a shortcut to a different button. Grab is still, I think, like light medium input, I think it was. I have things set up so it's mostly more like a touch memory thing than like remember specific buttons, but it's 2 button grab. And if you're not inputting correctly, if you don't input them at exactly the same time, if you plink them instead where anything's like a couple frames off, it doesn't read as a grab. How do you feel about King of Fighters controls or the other players? I have not played King of Fighters before. I am very, very proud that Taiwan basically put up one hell of a showing during King of Fighters 2022 run. But not to make a controversy out of anything of it, but I don't want to give the Saudi royal family any money, and SNK is majority owned again by the Saudi royal family. So I'm not too happy about that. And it just, frankly, there's so many things I want to, that there are so many good fighting games out there right now, and they all require my maximum attention in order to compete well in. That's a pain in the ass to have to play King of Fighters if I'm just not feeling that particular company or that particular ownership. I believe for a while they did divest from SNK for a little bit, but then they also like bought up the stock again, so they're still majority owner, which is gross. You know, it's gross. Like, so obviously I don't have anything against the culture, because I'm really excited for seeing anything else and just like reading about like the Middle Eastern scene in general, but specifically the political affiliations of it gives me the goosebumps. So nah, I'll skip on KOF. I had Samurai Showdown before all that went through, because Samurai Showdown is now a bit of an older game. But to my disappointment, my copy of Samurai Showdown is still not playable because the rollback implementation in the closed beta test just did not work. It should give you goosebumps. Yeah. I mean, I think most of you knew me in the first place due to my collaborations with Skyen, and we share a lot of the same viewpoints about things like that. So it probably doesn't come to a surprise to anybody here that I do not enjoy giving any amount of support to theocrats, conservatives, or fascists in general. And SNK, unfortunately, is a touchy subject about that. Obviously, if you already bought the shit, don't worry about it. Like, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism in the first place, and once you have consumed something, you can't unconsume it. You can't simply, like, you probably won't be able to get a refund for whatever you bought, right? And I can't get a refund for Samurai Showdown, so I would have been like semi-happy about playing it, except for one small detail. Samurai Showdown's purported rollback fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. The implementation was really, really bad. I don't know what's happening in SNK's end, but despite the fact that they got rollback working for the latest version of King of Fighters, it's just not working for Samurai Showdown. Or at the very least, it's causing crashes, and if you get a good game in, it's probably going to be your only good game for that day. Hopefully they do iron out the kinks though, because Samurai Showdown is it has a very distinct flavor to it, different from like every single fighting game has its own like inspirations and similarities to each other, because ultimately there's a lot more in common with this genre than anything else, despite the fact that fighting games in general are a much more different genre. Okay, so the way I will look at it like this is that a lot of games would have basic like fundamental assumptions about gameplay, about how controls are supposed to work and stuff like that, right? Like the WASD format, for instance, has pretty much become the standard format for the majority of PC games ever since like the Quake 2 days, right? Using QWER for MOBAs was standardized by League of Legends. Kind of hard to break out that format now. Even Dota ultimately allows you to reassign things to that format pretty simply, because it's just a lot easier to keep track that way when everything uses the same controls. But fighting games is very different from anything but itself, right? And that's especially true for anime games, who all tend to play alike except for specific system mechanics or things that directly descended from Street Fighter, right? In terms of plinks, in terms of target combos and things like that. If you're working under Street Fighter logic this entire time, a Street Fighter-like game, although it might have its quirks like CVS versus Street Fighter versus Tekken or stuff like that, ultimately they will fall within the same overall school of logic. Samurai Showdown technically falls under the Street Fighter side and that you don't have air dashes or anything like that. It's definitely a very much an old school game using old school like fighting game logic, but the overall flavor of it is extremely, well, extreme is a good way to put it in the first place. It has extreme sort of flavor in that, whereas Street Fighter gives you a whole bunch of time to interact with each other and basically feel each other out before you can like find that one weakness and therefore dive in and deal a whole bunch of damage. Samurai Shodown, you start with a whole bunch of damage. It is entirely possible to two-touch somebody in that game, and it's designed in the first place to be a two-touch game. If you fail that first rock, paper, scissors, there's no point in telling you good luck. You're already half dead. And that kind of explosive game encourages a really passive defensive playstyle, but also means that when you fail that defensive check, it explodes in your face with the force of 100 TNT dynamites. And that just makes for a really, really interesting sort of tension, right? Something that's distinct and unique from Street Fighter, even from like older versions of Guilty Gear. Like Guilty Gear has its own really, really high damage, and Nago Ryuki basically comes out of Samurai Shodown in the first place, which is why I picked up Nago Ryuki, because I figured if I'm used to two-touching people in Samurai Shodown, I can probably apply that to Nago Ryuki, and she'll feel pretty familiar, especially since he doesn't have an air dash. And I was right! Nago Ryuki plays like a Samurai Shodown character, except for a couple of really interesting cheats around the systems involved, especially with roaming cancels. Which made me excited to hear in the first place that Samurai Shodown was going to get rollback. Which would have been great if the rollback actually worked. Which leaves me where we are right now, where I'm basically focusing on 2 games and just completely ignoring Showdown until maybe like their closed beta test 3 or 4 or 5 or however long it takes for a game to finally work. If I even come back to it. Because the fact of the matter is, there are too many good fighting games now. There are too many good fighting games now. Like, even if we're just looking at games getting a second chance, we're looking at multiple titles with that privilege. We are looking at a year-long promise of Dragon Ball FighterZ finally getting a rollback, which honestly, I would not be surprised if they simply announced, well, it was a huge amount of trouble. We basically had to write everything from scratch. So here's Dragon Ball FighterZ 2. And that's fine with me. That's fine with me. If they have to remake Dragon Ball FighterZ just to implement rollback, copacetic with that. Give me all your Gokus, just make sure that it works properly on online play. And along with that, we also had Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising, which is basically Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, except hopefully with independent story, so there's more to play. They have already announced new characters. Nier is looking very, very interesting. It's basically a puppet character with a decidedly nasty, like, psychological edge to her. And, of course, Grand Blue Fall Guys? I don't know. They're doing so much for that game. Like, I kind of feel for the Grand Blue versus scene, right? Because they, despite everything, they have managed to keep their locals alive through the pandemic, through being one of the very last major fighting games, probably the very last ArcSys involved title to not have rollback code baked into their development, and they have managed to keep that game alive despite everything going on. And, you know, Grand Blue character designs are some of the best in the industry. So I'm legitimately excited to see if Rising will give them that much needed second win. Just like Skullgirls and just like Melee did all the way back during their like 2016 Evos. Just to have another chance at the spotlight. And if Rising succeeds, I will gladly play it. I fully intend to play Rising. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Press them buttons. Those are looking like fun characters. There's some unique shit. I like Grand Blue design too much. Yeah, same, man, same. Now there is the thing about Grand Blue Rising having a block button that people really don't like. I had an argument in Shim's channel a while ago with one of his regulars about the fact that just because you don't have cross-up mix-ups doesn't necessarily mean the game is lacking depth. because it just means that you really need to see if the system mechanics can support it, right? And sure, the lack of a true cross up can be frustrating. But I'll tell you this is technically true for Street Fighter 6 as well. The drive parry system will work like agnostic of the direction that the attack is coming in from. If you press medium punch and medium kick and you activate drive parry, it might as well be a meter locked block button, and not just any sort of meter locked block button. This is a universal block button. No high-low shenanigans, no left-right shenanigans. It's just it temporarily reduces the interaction to simply strike throw. Of course, the issue being that if you are caught during the drive parry frames with a throw, you take a lot of extra damage. You do not want to be relying solely on drive parry, right? But that, like, I've seen high level Grand Blue versus play before. It's not that much of a block fest. Like, eventually you're going to be tricked into throwing out a button. You're going to be whiff punished. There will be high-low mixes because that's the state of the game. Like, an overhead to open up is going to do a lot. And there is always the throw. If they're going to block, they better keep an eye on how close you are to them, because I will always throw a person that's way too close to me. It is arguably a bad habit I picked up from Guilty Gear Strive. But if it works, and especially if it puts you in a bad position, I will do it all day long. I will throw you 5 times in a row. I need to clip myself, actually. Of the last Strive stream I did, when I threw a guy 3 times in a row and got 3 Rock the Babies. And killed him with a Rock the Baby as well. That entire exchange was hilarious. It is so demoralizing to be caught like that. And that's still true for Grand Blue Versus. If it's going to be a strike throw game all day, I'm going to condition you to block. I'm going to condition you to expect a strike, and then I'm going to throw you across the room as God wills. God has told me you deserve to be in the corner. Finally, though, the fighting games I'm not expected to play. I do want to try to see if the system changes to DNF Duel will make it a little more interesting once the Spectre patch drops. But I am not holding out hope. I don't think anybody else is either. I think there's only I feel like it's just too late. Like the Dungeon Fighter franchise is one of the biggest in Asia, right? Like, specific to the Eastern Hemisphere, is one of the franchises to, like, one of the giants out there. But for something that's so well monetized and so damn popular, has so many so many players, I just don't understand why they would waste 6 months doing nothing between patches and content releases. That was a long half a year. That's a long ass half a year. And to be frank, I don't like the game either. I tried it. It wasn't to my tastes. It felt very much like a simplified version of Strive, and I just wanted to press Strive buttons instead at the end of the day. Like, I think just it's too close to Strive to avoid comparison is its biggest flaw. And I feel like I'm able to express myself better in Strive. I feel like going through Bridget yo-yo loops, and then like throwing in a random mix-up is more expressive than the infinite block strings that Crusader gives you, for instance. Or really anything else in that game. I did have some fun with Dragon Knight though, because Dragon Knight, she has probably had the most interesting buttons. Asuka Zone, welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscription rather. But yeah, DNF2 I just don't have quite as much fun with. Although, given that they are making some major system mechanic changes, I will give it a shot because I don't like just like prejudging a game, right? DNF Duel before the Spectre release just is not my fighting game whatsoever. But I will give Spectre a try just because she is hot. And, well, that's about 25% reason. 75% of the reason is specifically because they're changing the resource mechanics and the overall, like, basic balance of gameplay. And I'm hoping that's enough to make it interesting again. Because there are, like, glimmers of interesting choices made in its fundamental controls and design. It just didn't manage to keep my attention whatsoever. Let's call it a party game of traditional 2D fighters, because I can see somebody treating it like Brawl, right? I think he did. Inferno Chip says something similar, right? Where if somebody wants to play DNF Duel, he'll be down to play anytime, but he's never going to practice it. And that's kind of how I treat a lot of platform fighters as well, where like I could learn the ins and outs of it and nuances and get better at playing it, or I can just treat it as a party game. And if somebody does want to play it, I'll gladly whip their ass with my Mithra and Pyra, but I'm just not going to bother too much about competing in the scene, because frankly I also don't like the Smash Bros scene too much, specifically its competitive scene, right? I think they're a little too young for my tastes. There's a streak, a hard streak of immaturity amongst his competitors that they have not proven very successful in shaking after all these many years, and it's just the way it is. I just don't enjoy my time in it quite as much as traditional fighters. And finally, though, for fighters that I hope I will enjoy, we didn't go in depth about during yesterday's discussion panel, mostly because, well, one part is because I didn't want to get Peachy Burb in trouble, given that she is a Raiden employee, but also because she wasn't going to be able to tell us much in the first place, right? She's not involved in the Project L development side in the first place, and from my own personal experience, Riot tends to lock down that information pretty tightly. Like I have not been able to find anything, and I'm pretty good about that stuff with them usually. But I hope it succeeds. Like if there's any team out there that's going to release a brand new fighting game franchise and have it rock the house from moment one, it has to be the Riot team, right? It has to be the original developers of the GGPO rollback netcode technology. It's probably going to be Pat Miller with his enormous insights into player development and the process in which you get good at fighting games. It's going to be that team of like pro players helping to balance the game and design it. It's going to be the fact that it's basically the spiritual successor to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Even though it's only like only a 2-character tag team basis, it's still a tag team with Marvel style bursts, Marvel style like swaps, Marvel style assists. Like if you've played the MVC games before, I am 75% certain that the skills you develop in those styles is going to transfer to a pretty large degree to Project L, just based off the pedigree and what they have revealed of the game so far. Now, whether or not we're going to see at EVO is a completely different issue. It was a completely different issue because Riot's, again, really secretive. We were expecting them to release something around EVO last year as well. They decided to release a dev talk like weeks beforehand instead and clarify to everybody, no, we don't have anything to show at EVO this year. But I think it was Tom Cannon that tweeted that he was trying to render something recently. And whether that's something in the game, I don't know. He's not an artist, so I'm assuming it's going to be rendering a video instead that he's narrating, right? And if that is the case, I'm excited as hell. I hope they have an EVO drop. I hope they worked out something with Sony to demonstrate. I know for a fact that there's going to be Riot employees there as usual. They were there last year just to like have talks with the developers and major tournament organizers to like set expectations for their own internal program, which I'm really excited about. If Riot launches a content program for Project L, I guarantee, regardless of anything else, regardless of how tired I am at the end of the day, I'm going to be making some fucking content for that game. God damn it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm trying to contain my excitement as much as possible. But this is material that I basically built my career around in the first place. Like I got started in because like to avoid any sort of like doxing or anything, my history with Riot Games is extremely complex. I was never personally a rioter, so even if you go through the historical like employee directories, you're not gonna find me or anything like that. But it's very complex, it's very involved, and kind of bittersweet in some ways. Sky and I met through League of Legends, or at least the League of Legends community, for instance. He fully understands he has full understanding of where I've been and what I've been doing with the community and around the community. But a League of Legends specific fighting game with League of Legends characters that I have way too much knowledge of regarding the lore and the retcons in particular, and everything around that setting and everything around that environment and its writing and its characterizations and interactions and all the history around it, to be able to take my current passions combined with all my previous passions and just make a whole bunch of content around that. I'm really fucking excited, man. I'm trying not to get too excited, which is always the risk. Like, you know those clickbait videos where they just like hype the shit out of something, and then like 3 months later it proves to be a disappointment. They try to pretend that they never said anything about it. I'm trying not to do that, right? I'm definitely trying not to be that sort of inauthentic creep that really pisses me off to watch. But I cannot deny that a League of Legends fighting game is basically very, very specifically tailored to my interests. And I feel that it would be a denial of self not to heavily involve myself in both its content creation side and its competitive side. Doing everything I can to involve myself in that. And if certain writers figure out who I am, it'll probably cause it probably won't be a surprise to them, but it might cause like a slight sense of trepidation. Because again, that's a very, very bittersweet history I have with that company. But we'll see. So this has been going on for about an hour now, which is pretty much the perfect amount of time for one of these Zatsudans. So I will be done for tonight. I will have I think having just a place to rant, like a semi-structured format to rant and talk with you guys, is pretty damn nice. Be on the lookout for a couple of shorts I just need to like slap together later tonight, because they will be really easy stuff to put together. Probably won't take more than like 30 minutes, an hour each. It's not a whole lot of short content, but it is something that, feed the beast. Do follow me on Twitter for any further news. Of course, I will have my schedule posted on Twitter and Threads and co-host and Tumblr. Because right now, those are pretty much like the 4 platforms I'm looking at. Threads seems like they have the best shot at toppling the Twitter empire. Twitter is basically the ultimate empire surrounded by a whole bunch of rivals that are eager to eat up its borders. Tumblr is like the UK at the moment, where they were at risk of they were basically at a huge decline for a certain okay, so I know a little too much. I'm too much of a history nerd sometimes. Not nearly at the same level as Sky. I do read a lot. The thing about the UK was that they had an economic decline that makes the current Brexit situation look like a fucking joke. Like around the World War II era, where they were about to be rated like from a developed nation to a developing nation, right? A step back. Under Cold War terms, this would be called like a second world nation, right? Which is just nonsense. Because second world just means that you're not affiliated with the US or with Russia. But they were about to become a developing nation instead, going the same way as the Ottoman Empire themselves before the whole economic situation with the world changed, and they had revival and things were looking good again. And of course, the EU helped make sure that never happened to them. And if they happen to go through another decline because they left the EU, well, fuck, that's just fucking karma, man. They should have learned to listen the first time around. But the thing is, the point I'm trying to make is that Tumblr's having basically a revival again. mostly off the Gen Z population, who has seen that all the millennials have left the platform, but all the weird people are still left, and that's what they like in the first place. So they all congregate there, and things are still weird. Tumblr still has a very Tumblr sort of like ecosystem and culture, and despite everything that's happened, there's still a pretty healthy community going on in there. And then finally, co-host is basically Twitter as designed by leftists with stronger moderation tools, and not a whole lot of traffic yet because frankly, it's the first time they're running a business, and they're trying to go through purely organic channels to get people's attention, right? Which pragmatically I don't expect to work too well. Pragmatically, the only way to actually compete at the level of Twitter in the first place is to be Facebook, is to be a megacorp with the same amount of money to spend and the same willingness to burn through resources, and co-host doesn't have that sort of luxury, right? Power's main purpose is to build power, and money is power, and leftists never have any money. And if we did, we would very psychologically be inclined to stop being leftists, because it's much easier to fight injustice if you're on the sharp end of it, you know, and not the one wielding it. Fucking contradictions. But yeah. Pay attention to my social media platforms. I will update my card with the thread information soon. But if you go to lucianzenner.card.co, which is let me see. Has basically all my social media links and everything else. So yeah, I will see you around. I will probably not see you on Monday necessarily because I do want to just like have a day where I can just focus on work and nothing else. But do pay attention to my social media channels for my schedule, and I will see you all later. As always, my friends, eat well.